Hi, Kevin Blanche. We're coming up on a very marquee date in American history. 100 years. In the context, and this 100-year anniversary I think is so ironic as in today's contemporary society and our idealism and what's going on in the United States. You know, my fuck China rants, my fuck BP rants, the whole 9 yards, my fuck NAFTA rants, the whole thing. It comes full circle. We're coming up on the 100th anniversary of the Triangle Shirtwaist fire in Manhattan. Look, what's going on in China, the way we abuse labor, and it is us. We're the one buying their goods. I try not to buy, goods. I mean, this coat, made in Baltimore in 1950s. You know, how many coats have you bought at Walmart in the last 40, 50 years? We traded in quality for quantity a long time ago. Sure, we used to have to pay 2-3 times more for something, but it lasted 30 times more. It's my favorite hat. It wasn't made that long ago. In one of my favorite places, Sparks, Nevada. But anyway, the Triangle Shirtwaist fire, which killed over 200 young women. We had no labor laws in this country. None. None. And we had the sickening greed, just like the sickening corporate CEOs are then. They owned businesses in Manhattan. You know, all over the eastern United States. Out west hadn't evolved yet. Well, these sickening creeps were treating their labor like dirt. Like common dirt, you know. No labor laws whatsoever. They would lock them in. I mean, stand over the top. Wouldn't give them bathroom breaks. I mean, they were evil. Didn't pay them shit. Well, the young women stood up and they fought back. And they band together. And they formed picket lines. And they marched Fifth Avenue together. And these creeps paid off the police department in New York City. The police department beat the hell out of them. And I don't mean just pushed them down, whatever. I mean, broken ribs, fractured skulls, beat the hell out of them. These women just kept fighting and fighting. These young women. They stood together. Well, they finally, some of the shop owners, with a little teeny bit of compassion, so gave them a little teeny few rights and, let them join unions and go together. And they went together. Well, at the Triangle Shirtwaist Company, not these two creeps. The girls go back to work. These creeps were in the same building. You know, the garment industry's always been that way in the city. You know, executive office, manufacturer, sell it all in the same building. Well, there was a fire, and it broke out, and this was in the attention of the hierarchy of New York City. These girls could look down Fifth Avenue and see the mansions these assholes lived in, why they were living in freaking squalor, why they were working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, fingers freaking getting sewed off, no one cared. The place started on fire. These two assholes got out. It's ironic, well, they locked the doors. They didn't want these people to go out. Some of these girls got into the elevator and got out, but a lot of them didn't get out. Over 200 of them burned to death. The fire department didn't have tall enough ladders. They were jumping out windows. And this was in people's face. Well, it changed America forever. It changed America forever. It changed contemporary idealism in people's minds and people's brains. It made them think, oh my God, this is what happens? This is what they do? Now, unlike here, where, oh, this goes on in China. We looked at, that's what's going on in China. Same thing that was going on here. Well, via this horrific fire gave us labor laws. That's what gave us minimum wage. That's what gave us time and a half. That's what gave us work weeks. That's what gave us, holiday pay. That's what allowed unions to unionize. Because it was in every newspaper. It was the top #1 story. People were outraged. Women's suffrage had been evolving since the 1860s. It hadn't got its traction. Right here in Utah, a Mormon girl, right here in Wyoming, they were pushing hard. Well, if it wasn't for this fire, we wouldn't have got the 19th Amendment. And all these teabaggers saying, what's the 19th Amendment? We only know what the 2nd Amendment is, and let's get rid of that 12th Amendment, that 4th, 7th, voting for senators, we want to repeal that. I actually have a teabagger on tape, right here, asking him what he thought of the 28th Amendment of the Constitution. And he gave me an answer. I got it. He's in office. I'm going to bury him one day when I release that. I'll do it one day. You know there's only 27. But it was that fire that created the women's right to vote. It was that fire that gave us the strongest working class in the history of the world. It was those women who fought. They went to the streets and got their heads broken, got thrown in jail, and stood up. And they had to die. Is that what it takes again? Something tragic to happen? Look, we've come full circle. what they did, and then here come FDR and Marin Eccles from our town, and they created the greatest, strongest middle class in the history of the world. We had a wonderful society in this country after World War II, through the 50s, the 60s, and 70s, because of this. This happens, it doesn't go down. You know, and the Irish and the Italians fought with blood. Now look at us. They just found a way, and you think, oh, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, these business owners liked it that way? Hell no, they hated it. But they've got the media bought and paid for now. They got smart. They went and bought the Republican Party. They own the Republican Party. I mean, you think it's ironic all these presidential candidates work for Fox. I mean, the neo-freaking radical freaking extreme right, just like those shop owners in Manhattan, they're no different than they were that, but they bought the media, which has bought the Republican Party. They bought and own it. So they've just took a different angle. Then what they did is just rotated it to China or Mexico or South America, any place they exploit and abuse labor just like was being done there. Because, oh, you got these labor laws in the United States. Oh my God, you have a minimum wage? Oh my God. You know, well, it used to be you had to pay time and a half. I mean, we got rid of all that shit. But no, so they just backdoored China. You don't think the China issue existed 100 years ago? It did. It did exist. And things could come in. I hear all the time, oh, we flattened the earth. Bullshit. Read your history. It was going on then. Big time. But they were able to exploit labor here, so they didn't need to. Well, we had labor laws. We had tariffs. We didn't let stuff in. And everybody thinks, oh, I'm anti-trade because I'm all pro-tariffs. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm all for free trade with countries who treat their workforce fairly. I mean, I try to buy American. Like I said, this coat was made in Baltimore in 1951. How many coats have you bought in 50 years? It's like perfect. I wear it all the time. This hat I've had for a long time, made in Sparks, Nevada. My umbrella. I love this umbrella. I've had it for decades and decades. You know, go buy your freaking umbrella in Manhattan off the street vendor for $5. What last you want? How many you bought in the last? Think about it. You New Yorkers, how many of those have you bought? I've carried that one. You know, of course, in New York they get a little mad because this thing opens up big, but, you know, stuff lasts. Yeah, we had to pay 3, 4, 5 times more for it, but it lasted 20 times more for it. This suit, I love Italian suits. This suit's my favorite suit. It's Italian, this jacket. My shoes! I love Italian shoes. They're Italian, but I'm all for doing trade with freaking Italy, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Ireland, you know, the UK, Canada. You know, plenty of countries because they treat their workforces fairly. I'm not for doing trade with people who do the same thing that these assholes did to the women in Manhattan. I have a very close friend who was an athlete out here, came out here to play basketball from New York City. We were at the game the other night. We're talking, and I don't know how I got on this subject about talking about this 100-year anniversary's come up. He said, how do you know about that? He said, I got a story for you about that, you know, because he's a New Yorker. And I says, I'm a U.S. economic history guy. That's my forte, you know. Of course I know about it. It's one of the most important dates in America ever. He says, my mother just passed away, and in her will, all she asked to be buried at that cemetery where those young girls are buried at. He says, it's such hallowed ground. And he says, I was lucky enough to get a burial over there. And he says, I go over there, and he says, he says, it's so sacred over there. It's like, it just overwhelms him over there. And this is a big, strong guy. He says, I just break down tears every time I go over there. Well, it's the young female who has to change popular culture, you know, like they did then. You know, they took to the streets, and granted, it was tragic and it was horrible. But until the young mother changes our popular opinion and realizes, hey, my little kids, those Chinese little kids are little children too, and look what they're doing to them. And they're communists. Look, they're doing the same thing that these creepy bastards did here 100 years ago. And you know, when you watch CNBC or you watch these guys, come on. Those people are the very people who are doing it. They're sponsored by them. That is their freaking mentality. People are not going to give in just because out of the goodness of their heart. People do things because they can. And the reason they could not do it all through, like again, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, you know, the 70s. We had the strongest middle class in the world, not because out of the kind. These guys hated it. They hated it. They had to play fair. Tariffs, we had laws. If somebody was cheating and their human rights record was horrific, we threw down the gauntlet. Says, we ain't playing ball with you. But here, again, we've slowly molded Fox News, bought and paid for by one of these creeps that I just talked about. These creeps that I'm just talking about have baptized their voting base via News. You think it's coincidence? All these GOP presidents, every one of them were for news? Fox News? Fox News is bought and paid for, and that's how they've changed the idealism. You know, the young mother, until she stands up, the young woman in America, until she stands up and says, no, no, we will not, no more, and change the vote in this country. Like I said, God forbid it takes something else like this to happen, but it's ironic we've come full circle. It's the 100th year anniversary, March 25th this year, of that horrific fire. And those women who were so brave and so strong. That is the American story. That is the freak. You want to talk the true powers and strengths of America? Women like that. That's the powers. That's who we are. We'll overcome. We're not what we are right now. You know, like I said, letting them abuse freaking little children. I mean, there's a big debate going in China right now. Oh, God to God, we hear it on CNBC. There's inflation going in China, wage inflation. The average wage is going from 7 cents to 11 cents an hour. Seriously, seriously, wow. Wow, and people are saying, God, my food bill Walmart, my 5 meals at Walmart's going to go up because they're paying them little kids 11 cents now. Should have said, really? Wow. I mean, everybody should stop and think about this. PBS has a magnificent documentary out on this subject. It's out. It's been out for a long, long time. I've seen it many, many times. Everybody in America. All you teachers, all you professors, have your students watch this. Have your students watch this. And this is a philosophy. This is a philosophy that's gone amok. And it's a power monger greed. And it's not going to stop because these guys decide, oh yeah, they're going to abuse labor as far as they can abuse it. And they've abused it to the 10th power. And this, we flattened out the world's total bullshit. This issue was going on 100 years ago. China issue was going on 100 years ago. They're communists. Their human rights record is horrific. And I'm all for free trade. People like Italy, Germany, France, maybe they're not. Maybe the Europeans don't want to do business because we're exploiting freaking hungry brown people from the South. But you know what? I'm all for free trade if you treat your working population fairly. Of course, in this country, we don't treat them fairly anymore. Right here, you can fire anybody for anything you want. We don't have to pay time and a half anymore. You can work a guy 24/7. They had a fit about raising the minimum wage to $7.25. It's a sad commentary on America. But just what happened over there 100 years ago is going on in China today. It's not going on in Western Europe. It's not going on in Canada. It's not going on a lot of places. And even in places in South America that it's not. But a lot of places it is. They're exploiting labor. Tariff them. Put the tariffs on them. Kevin Blanche. March 2011.